Jesse Pinkman may have started as Walter White's unlikely partner in the meth business, but throughout Breaking Bad's 5 seasons, he made some seriously questionable decisions. From impulsive moves that nearly got him killed, to trusting the wrong people at the worst times. Today we'll examine 10 of Jesse's dumbest moments that kept us all on the edge of our seats. 10. Throwing money out the car window. In Season 5, after learning the devastating truth about Brock's poisoning and his manipulation by Walter, Jesse has a complete breakdown. In one of his most impulsive moments, he drives through Albuquerque, literally throwing stacks of cash out his car window into random yards and streets. While we can understand Jesse's guilt and need to get rid of what he sees as blood money, this was incredibly reckless. The money could be traced back to drug activity, potentially exposing innocent families to DEA investigation. Not to mention, it was a dead giveaway that something major had happened. The kind of erratic behavior that draws unwanted attention from law enforcement, trying to sell meth to Narcotics Anonymous members. Early in Season 1, Jesse makes the brilliant decision to try selling meth at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Yes, you read that right. He thought a room full of people in recovery would be prime customers for crystal meth.
Why I'm here in the first place is to sell you meth.
This shows just how little Jesse understood about addiction, recovery, and basic human decency at the time. It was disrespectful to people genuinely trying to get clean, and incredibly stupid from a business perspective. Fortunately for everyone involved, he quickly realized this was a terrible idea, but it remains one of his most tone-deaf moments. 8. Leaving his fingerprints everywhere at Gail's apartment. When Jesse kills Gail Bedecker in Season 3's finale, he's clearly traumatized and not thinking straight. However, his complete disregard for forensic evidence was staggering. He left fingerprints throughout Gail's apartment and didn't take basic precautions to cover his tracks. This nearly led to his immediate arrest, and only Walt's quick thinking with the confession tape saved him. For someone involved in a major drug operation, Jesse's lack of awareness about evidence was consistently problematic throughout the series. 7. Bringing meth to the hospital while visiting Brock. After Brock gets poisoned, which Jesse believes is from ricin, Jesse makes the incomprehensible decision to bring a bag of meth with him to the hospital. He's searched by security and barely avoids being caught with drugs while visiting a poisoned child. This moment perfectly encapsulates Jesse's inability to think clearly under pressure. He's so panicked about Brock that he forgets he's carrying illegal substances into a place crawling with security and potentially law enforcement. It's the kind of mistake that could have blown everything wide open. 6. The whole situation with Spooge and the ATM. Jesse's encounter with Spooge and his girlfriend in Season 2 was a masterclass in poor decision-making. First, he goes alone to collect money from notoriously unreliable addicts. Then, when things go sideways, he ends up trapped under an ATM that Spooge stole. The entire situation was avoidable if Jesse had brought backup or chosen his clients more carefully. Instead, he nearly dies in one of the most absurd ways possible, and the incident creates more problems when Spooge's girlfriend kills him, leaving Jesse to flee a crime scene. 5. Trusting Todd and his uncle's crew. Jesse's decision to work with Todd Alquist and his Uncle Jack's white supremacist crew was catastrophically dumb, though admittedly he had limited options. Still, Jesse should have recognized the danger these people represented from the beginning. Todd had already proven himself to be a cold-blooded killer when he shot Drew Sharp, the kid on the dirt bike. Getting involved with his uncle's crew, minus literal Nazis, was always going to end badly. Jesse's naivety about just how dangerous these people were contributed to some of the series' darkest moments. 4. Attempting to burn down Walt's house. In Season 5, Jesse's plan to burn down Walter's house was emotionally understandable but tactically moronic. He douses the living room with gasoline and is about to light it when Hank calls him. Think about what would have happened if Jesse had followed through. A house fire would have brought firefighters, police, and investigators. Walt's neighbors would have been questioned, and Jesse would have been the obvious suspect given his known association with Walt. It was a plan driven entirely by emotion with no consideration of consequences. 3. Talking about Mr. White in front of Hank. Jesse's loose lips nearly exposed everything on multiple occasions, but the most dangerous was when he repeatedly mentioned Mr. White in front of Hank Schrader. Even after Hank became suspicious, Jesse continued making references that could have connected Walt to the drug operation. For someone whose freedom depended on keeping Walt's identity secret, Jesse was remarkably careless with information. His inability to keep his mouth shut consistently put both of them at risk throughout the series. 2. The ricin cigarette incident. Jesse's handling of the ricin cigarette was a comedy of errors that nearly got him killed multiple times. First, he loses track of it, then panics thinking Walt poisoned Brock with it. His erratic behavior while searching for the ricin draws suspicion and nearly exposes their operation. Later, when he discovers that Walt actually had Saul's bodyguard Huel lift the cigarette from him, Jesse realizes he's been manipulated, but his initial carelessness with such a dangerous substance showed a shocking lack of responsibility for someone involved in cooking methamphetamine. 1. Partnering with Walter White in the first place. But Jesse's biggest mistake, the one that led to every other problem in his life, was agreeing to partner with Walter White in the first place. When his former chemistry teacher climbed out of that RV in his underwear, Jesse should have run in the opposite direction. Jesse knew Walt was desperate, unpredictable, and had no experience in the drug world. He saw Walt's capacity for violence early on, witnessed his manipulation tactics, and experienced his controlling nature firsthand. Yet he continued the partnership long after it became clear that Walt was willing to sacrifice anyone, including Jesse, for his own goals. From the very beginning, Walt saw Jesse as expendable. He manipulated him, poisoned his girlfriend's son, watched Jane die, and eventually handed him over to murderous white supremacists. Every tragic thing that happened to Jesse can be traced back to his decision to cook meth with Walter White. In the end, Jesse's biggest weakness wasn't his drug use or his criminal activities. It was his inability to recognize when someone was using him. His loyalty and desire for a father figure made him the perfect victim for Walter's manipulation, and it nearly cost him everything. Jesse Pinkman's story is ultimately one of survival against impossible odds, but these dumb decisions along the way made his journey far more dangerous than it needed to be. Sometimes being too trusting and too loyal can be just as dangerous as being too ruthless.